Hi guys, welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to talk about propagating portulacaria afra or dwarf jade. Um, Here's a cutting that I took off of one of my big jades in my last video, and today I'm going to talk about propagating it. So there are two ways that you can propagate jades. One is you could stick this directly into soil. Once you do that, though, you want to let it dry out for a couple days. So wait a couple days before you would water it, and then you would water it pretty lightly until you start seeing new growth come on top. Another way you could do it is this is a fresh cut, but once you make the cut, you could just leave it on the table or wherever you're at to let it dry out for a day or two, and then put it in soil. But either way, the point is to let it dry out a little bit. So whether you put it right into soil or let it dry out in open air, is you don't want to water it for at least a couple days to let that callus over a little bit. Another way to do it is water propagating. And I've got a couple back here. This one is one that I started, it's probably been a month or so, maybe 6 weeks, and you can see it's got some nice roots on it. You can use just about anything. I ordered this little setup off of Amazon. I like it because I don't have a lot of space, and most of my cuttings are small, so this doesn't take up a lot of space here. So I've got one here that's empty. I went ahead and put some water in it. So it's just as simple as, you cut it off and stick it right down into the water. I usually try to get the water level to where it's just over the base. You don't want to get, much water up in the trunk here because it could rot. Haven't had that issue, but like I said, I don't submerge the whole trunk in the water. I just do right at the bottom. So, and that's it. And you just set it back over. Try to get it in a warm place, preferably above 70 degrees. 75 or 80 would be even better. And not direct sunlight. You could have it under a grow light because they're not as intense. And depends on the temperature and the settings, somewhere in between 2 to 4 weeks, you should start seeing some really small roots develop. And then, like I said, this one's been 6 weeks or so. Kind of lost track. Here's a couple others. These have tags on them because they are the cuttings off of my Frank Yee cork bark jade. So I'd like to keep them labeled so I can keep track of which ones are the cork bark versus the regular variety, because when they're young like this, they don't show any difference. They don't look much different than a normal portulacaria. So I'll keep them tagged so I can keep them separate. And this one I tagged it when I cut it. So this was done at the 1st of September, about the 2nd week of September. And we're at the end of October. So it's been about 6 weeks, and you can see the kind of roots that it grows. So today, that's pretty much it on propagating. It's really simple. If you have any questions about it, feel free to leave me a comment. And also today, I think we'll go ahead and pot this guy up. It's got a lot of nice roots on it. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and put that into some soil. So we'll get a small container. I just use these small plastic grow containers, when they're starting out. The plastic, retains a little bit more moisture, but it does have some nice airflow in the bottom. It's got a lot of holes in the bottom, so it has nice drainage and airflow. So put a little soil in here. And the soil I use, just about everything, is just akadama and lava. So I fill it up about halfway and then spread the roots out. It's never too early to start working on the roots. Just try to get them in somewhat of a radial pattern, just so it starts developing that nabari that we're all looking for. Be a little careful with them so you don't break any off. And then once you get them, I don't really trim any at this point. I just get them down into the soil and keep them spread out. You can see they're kind of spread out in there. And then just fill it up with soil. Use a chopstick or some other utensil. Doesn't really matter what you use. You could probably even use your finger at this point, just to make sure the soil is all packed around the roots. And when they're this young, the roots aren't that strong. It is buried a little bit deeper than I normally bury them, just to hold the cutting up, because if not, it'll most likely fall over because of the weight that it's got on top. But if it does fall over, I do also maybe sometimes put a rock or some other item in there to prop it up until the roots take hold. And then once it's in there, just give it some water. This is just plain water. It's non-fertilized. I don't fertilize the fresh roots. I let them get acclimated. So coming from water to soil, you know, they're used to being submerged in water. So these first couple weeks, I make sure that, you know, I try to keep the soil a little more moist than I normally would on a portulacaria, just so the roots acclimate to a drier climate. Because if you would take them out of the water right into soil and water it, you know, sparingly like you normally would this variety, the roots may suffer a little bit, dry out, and set the plant back. So as you can see, this cutting was a horizontal limb that I cut off. So it's a little flat on one side, but it'll eventually bud out on this side. And you know, with the trunk shape, it's kind of got a neat little twist and movement in the trunk. So we'll just kind of see where it goes from there. And this is one that I had water propagated earlier this year and planted up. I use this container here to propagate that one. You can use any container. As your cuttings get bigger, of course, you can use just a vase with a little bit larger opening, but anything will work, just something that'll keep it propped up right. And this one's been potted up for probably 3 or 4 weeks, and it's already got some new growth coming, so pretty easy to do. So I think that's it on propagating. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.